Today, Jimmer Fredette talks about being Mormon in the NBA.
I think that the challenges really make you the type of person that you are going to become.
He and his new wife, Whitney, share their hopes for the future and the role that the gospel plays in their marriage. And hear about the new Nepali-speaking branch in Salt Lake City.
To me, it's coming home. Being with the people who look like me, who act like me, who grew up like me, who speak like me.
It's a gathering that's giving these new members a place to worship. See how missionaries are aiding in this effort and why the Bhutanese people are finally able to embrace the gospel and surviving unimaginable loss.
For us, there's still unanswered questions out there.
The big question is, where is Susan?
The family of missing mother Susan Cox Powell talks about how they're working through the pain. Find out what they're doing to help other victims of abuse. Good morning and welcome to Mormon Times. Striving instead of quitting. It's something we need to remember in every aspect of our lives. NBA player Jimmer Fredette knows a little something about that, and he joins us this morning with his wife, Whitney. So glad that you could stop by, and congratulations on your marriage this summer in the Denver Temple.
Yeah,
How's it been being newlyweds?
It's been great for me, hopefully for her too. I think so. Yeah, we've had a great time. It's been 3 months. We had a great honeymoon in Hawaii. But then other than that, it's been pretty busy this summer, but we've done some great things, and the best part about it is that now she can come everywhere and we can go everywhere together. Exactly.
Okay, so you've got this new book out called The Contract, where you talk about the relationship that you have with your brother TJ and how achieving your dream and making the MBA was really a family effort. And what's made all the difference for you in achieving and setting and then achieving your goals?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first thing, he wrote this contract for me, and it's the first goal. Part of setting goals is to write it down, and he realized that, and I didn't at a young age, so he came to me with this contract, and he wanted me to sign it, and I thought it was kind of a stupid idea at first, but it turned out to be genius. He just put it over my bed, pinned it up there, and every night I saw it when I was going to bed and when I woke up. So, every night I went to bed dreaming about becoming an NBA basketball player. But it's not just enough to dream about it. You have to go out and do the work as well.
And Whitney, how has his dedication through the challenges influenced you in your life?
He's unbelievably dedicated and super motivated with everything he does. And mostly for me, it just really impresses me. I've had, any kind of things that I do in my life, a lot of times it's easier to just give up than really just keep going. Let's just say, never mind, let's just forget about it. And he really is so impressive. He works so hard every day. And just to see this last year, I wasn't able to be there with him, but I mean, I know that it was a little bit of a harder year on him, and we talked about it all the time. So it was really impressive, to come out this year, and he worked even harder. He was like, I don't want to have another like last year. I want to make it better. So it's been really incredible to see him, especially this summer, just work really, really hard. And he's excited for the season and ready to get back out there.
Well, with such a busy lifestyle in the NBA and not always being home on Sundays, how do you work the church into this and keep that forefront in your life?
It's definitely more difficult than not having a job on the weekends, and it's important for us to continue to be strong in our faith. We truly love it and truly believe in it, and it really helps us out through a lot of struggles that we go through as a family and during my basketball career. So it's always about continuing to pray and to read your scriptures and do those little things that everybody asks you to do and that are cliche, but they really do help you through your life. And then go to church every Sunday that you possibly can. A lot of times she'll go to church pretty much every Sunday.
I go out by myself,
yeah,
but that's okay.
She'll have to go by herself, but
the great thing about Sacramento, I mean, there's a ward at 9, there's a ward at 11, there's a ward at 1. So we try to, we try to work around his schedule. Not always can we go to our home ward, but a lot of times we'll go to another ward just so we can, at least get to sacrament meeting.
Yeah, so I mean, there's been times where on the road I've been to church and just bring some clothes and have gone to church with members in the area that I know. So that's always a good thing. That's a great thing about our church is that there's someone that everywhere. And you can always find a place to worship. We always talk about you just have to remember where your roots are and remember what type of person you want to be. That's way more important than the basketball skills. You're going to play basketball for a certain amount of time, but then afterwards you're still going to have a long life. Yeah. And it's important to way more important to be a good person and to have that type of impact on people than to be a great basketball player in our eyes, at least.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's great. And good luck to both of you. Again, the book is called The Contract. We have some signed copies to give away. And just go to facebook.com/MormonTimesTV for details on that. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, in April, the church established the first Nepali-speaking branch in the United States. It was organized in South Salt Lake, and it's comprised almost entirely of Nepali-speaking refugees from Bhutan. Brooke Walker shares how the creation of this branch is seen as a fulfillment of prophecy.
The gathering of these Nepali-speaking saints in Utah is truly a miracle. They come from the predominantly Hindu country of Nepal, where missionaries are not allowed to proselyte.
A church in Nepal is small, obviously, so we have only 100 people.
Compare that to the newly created Crossroads Square branch in South Salt Lake, where there are currently 150 members.
We baptize nearly every week.
The missionary came to my house and they told me that the Heavenly Father is true.
I feel really happy to know about Jesus Christ and the church.
The missionary work among these saints is plentiful and amazing. The majority of church materials, including the Book of Mormon, are not yet translated into Nepali. Missionaries who serve in the branch have to teach themselves to speak the language, and nearly a dozen service missionaries are helping with both temporal and spiritual needs.
Having a branch provides these members an opportunity to serve, to have callings, and to be given priesthood authority and have leadership responsibilities.
On April 21, we had a meeting, and that's the first time that sacrament was ever uttered in Nepali.
The prayer in their native language had an immediate impact on the congregation.
I could see on their faces how they felt loved.
Every soul counts, regardless of where they came from or who they are. So the first week of seeing 8 Bhutanese men in their white shirts and ties was amazing, absolutely amazing.
They're beautiful. We love them.
For me, it's a fulfillment of prophecy to me. Many, many years ago, when I was in China going to school, I had an opportunity to meet Elder Maxwell. He said, I'll have the opportunity to teach people from Nepal. Here I'm in Utah, teaching the Nepali people, just like Elder Maxwell said.
That they come from so far and they wind up here is a testimony to me that I'm witnessing the gathering.
It's a true testament about the Heavenly Father hears each of us. He knows who we are. He has a plan for us.
For Mormon Times, I'm Brooke Walker.
Brother Gimme Ray hopes that proselyting missionaries will one day be allowed in Nepal and that the young people they are teaching now will one day preach the gospel in their homeland. Coming up next, a pioneer church full of personality.
We have a lot of fun little nooks and crannies and things that people haven't even seen before.
We'll tell you why there's a secured vault inside the chapel.
Pioneers didn't have markers. I would have been a lousy pioneer.
And discover the humor of Val Chadwick Bagley, whose LDS-based cartoons keep us all smiling. As church members in Brigham City celebrate the opening of the new temple there, another beautiful building in the city is getting attention for being 100 years old. A second-story balcony.
For 100 years, teenagers have been going up and down this thing.
Hidden crawl spaces in the roof and beautiful stained glass windows.
That is very historical. In fact, there's only, I think, 3 within the church in different buildings.
It's clear the 3rd 15th Ward building in Brigham City is not your normal Latter-day Saint chapel.
We have a lot of personality in this ward. There's a lot of history here.
The Brigham City 3rd Ward was one of the original 4 wards created in the city by Brigham Young.
When he came and divided the the one ward into 4 wards, one for each quadrant in the city. Some people say that this was his last public speaking event.
35 years later, the chapel was built to serve the growing number of members in the area.
The people had to raise money themselves. They had circuses and dinners. I mean, they were just so industrious.
Besides the stunning glass windows, the chapel included practical features for early church members, like a vault.
They didn't have any place to deposit their funds.
Oh.
So what they would do is tithing and offerings would be put in here, and then once a month they would take them to Salt Lake.
In May, hundreds of people attended a reception to commemorate the building's centennial anniversary. Memorabilia and photos were displayed, and church members expressed appreciation for their forebears.
I feel very strongly that the people that started this ward and lived really, really hard lives deserve recognition. We really honor them.
Even if you've never been to Brigham City, chances are that you've seen a signature feature of that chapel. The stained glass window depicting Joseph Smith's first vision appeared on the cover of the February issue of The Ensign. Well, still to come, an unimaginable heartache that is still healing.
As terrible as it is, I would like to know what happened, really. I want to know the whole truth, and then I can work through it and move on.
Susan Cox Powell's family talks about their terrible loss and how the gospel helps give them perspective. And LDS therapist Julie Hanks will outline some warning signs to watch out for when it comes to domestic abuse, trigger points that might mean there is trouble, and how you can help somebody who's suffering. Domestic violence can happen to anyone, regardless of race, age, gender, or religion. Not only affects those who are abused, but also their family members, their friends, and the community at large. On October 16th, Susan Cox Powell would have turned 31 years old. Instead, she is presumed dead, a victim of domestic violence.
I knew that there were problems. I didn't realize he was violent, that he had intentions to kill her.
In early December 2009, Susan Cox Powell, a mother of 2 young sons, was reported missing from her home in West Valley City, Utah. Her husband, Josh Powell, was named as a person of interest in her disappearance. Well, 2 weeks after Susan went missing, Josh moved to Washington State with his sons Charlie and Braden to live with his father. Shortly thereafter, the police removed the boys from Josh's custody, and Susan's parents, Chuck and Judy Cox, were given custody of them.
It was so intensely relieving when they were finally pulled from that house and went into the Cox's home.
In February of this year, the tragic events surrounding Susan's disappearance only got worse. During a supervised visit, Josh locked his sons and himself inside his home and set fire to the house, killing both his boys and himself. This tragic turn of events left hundreds of unanswered questions.
I would still like to know where she is, where her remains are, and if possible, move them to be by the boys.
Please find your knees, don't cry while I sleep. I'm still there with you, I still feel you too. I'm still there inside your arms, like a prayer close to your heart.
We have accepted the fact that our daughter is most likely dead. We just wouldn't want someone else to have to go through something like this.
We started a foundation because when it happened to us, we didn't know where to turn.
There's so much work out there to do.
And there's so many people that have endured things as much as we have. What we want is to get people help. And if our story, which has gone national and helps to bring attention to, so we're doing all we can to try and help everyone that's trying to stand against this great evil.
I miss Susan, but I also know where she is. She's in a really good place and she has her boys. And I look forward to that day again, to be able to just embrace her and the boys.
You can go to the Susan Cox Powell Foundation website to get more information and also to download that song, A Dream Away, that was featured in the story. We'll have a link to this website on our website at mormontimestv.ksl.com. It's been reported by the U.S. Department of Justice that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 13 men will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. That is a staggering statistic, and members of the church are not immune. About abuse, Elder Richard G. Scott has said some matters are so sensitive and intensely personal and can awaken such disturbing feelings that they are seldom mentioned publicly. Yet, if tenderly and compassionately treated in the light of truth, discussion of these matters can bring greater understanding. That's Richard G. Scott, Quorum of the 12 Apostles, to heal the shattering consequences of abuse from that talk. LDS therapist Julie Hanks is here now to bring greater understanding to the subject of domestic abuse. And I guess first we have to define what exactly is it?
It can cover so many different areas. Physical, we think of physical generally, but it can be emotional, spiritual. It can be relational. So it's basically an attempt to take away someone else's agency and to minimize their self-worth.
And members of the LDS Church are not immune. This happens?
Not at all. It happens. It happens. And often it happens in families because that kind of behavior was learned in the home.
So sometimes people in unhealthy relationships don't really realize that there's a problem, and they begin to think that abuse is normal. So what are some of the signs for people to watch out for to know if there's a problem in the home?
So if you feel like there are really unrealistic expectations, you feel controlled, you feel like you're walking on eggshells, like you're really not the boss of your life.
Can't be yourself.
And you're, yeah, exactly. There's also abusive relationships tend to pull their partner away from family members and loved ones and isolate them socially. And so, you know, these are the more subtle signs. We tend to think of bruises and broken bones, but there's a lot of subtle abuse going on even in the LDS Church.
You said, too, making excuses for your partner, that can even be part of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about the warning signs? I think that's really important. What can we watch out for?
It is really important. Jealousy and possessiveness. So if there's kind of this, your mind, this sense of ownership for your spouse, or you feel that way, that is a huge warning sign. Controlling behavior, controlling what you say, where you go, controlling money is a huge area too. A hypersensitivity to emotion. So there's just kind of explosive emotions where you just never know. You never know what you're going to get. Yes. Also, threatening violence or using violence. So threats of violence is abusive. Yes, and that's where it can start too. So that is never okay to threaten someone else's sense of safety. That's not what marriage relationships are about.
Is there hope that things can improve if you're in a relationship like this?
Yes, yes. There is hope for most cases. There are some situations where you need to get out immediately. If you're in danger, or you know someone who is in danger physically, immediately that needs to be dealt with.
But counseling can help.
Counseling can help break the cycle of abuse. But safety is always number one for the couple and for the children, if there are children involved.
So if you worry that a friend or a family member is experiencing abuse, then what can you do for them?
So I use the acronym ALL. A is take action. Like we mentioned before, if they're in immediate danger, help get them out of that situation. L, listen. Listen and be unconditionally loving. And lastly, let them know that they're not alone. These are complicated relationships. It's easy for us to say, just get out, you know. Right. But it's difficult, and they need to know that they're not alone, and you'll be there for them.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Sensitive subject, hard to talk about, but thank you so much. And we'll have a link to Julie's website on our website at mormontimestv.ksl.com. Well, you've seen his work for years now in the new era. Coming up next, meet the man behind the cartoons, Val Chadwick Bagley.
One time I asked my wife, should I quit what I'm doing and go get a real job? And she said, you can't quit. You're living the American dream.
It's a great thing when you can look at life with a sense of humor. Meet Val Chadwick Bagley, known as the cartoonist guy, who's all about developing your talents and looking at the sunny side of life. Here's his story.
When I was 5 years old in kindergarten, I knew I was either going to be a baseball player or an artist. I think outside the box of how people think, and that's what makes you successful.
Val nurtured his art talent through high school, drawing for the newspaper and yearbook.
My art teacher said, "You'd be a really good artist if you quit this cartooning thing."
When it came time to serve a mission, Val bought journals that became home to his cartoons.
I ended up drawing my entire mission. Every day was a different cartoon that I experienced. I think you have to find out what you like to do and get better at that, whatever it is, and then love it. I went to the temple, and I was waiting in the chapel and looking in the Book of Mormon.
He randomly opened it to Helaman chapter 12, verse 2, where it talks about how the Lord prospers his people.
When I read the word art, I went, wow, I get to do what I want to do, and that's when I decided to start my own business.
Val got a loan from the bank, and his mom co-signed.
And the bank guy says, "Do you have any advice for your son?" My mom says, "Just start every day with prayer." And so that was the whole defining thing, to go to the temple, pray about it, and do it.
So Val unleashed his creativity in the new era, bringing smiles to teenagers' faces starting in 1978.
Well, I know for one thing, almost every kid picks up the new era just to look at the cartoon first of all.
He's also created dozens of children's religious books and games.
I love to be able to look in sacrament meeting and knowing some of my books are keeping kids quiet. I have parents who thank me that I do that too.
Val's inspiration comes from basic gospel principles and the scriptures.
I know our Heavenly Father gave every one of us talents, and He wouldn't have given us those talents if we didn't have a purpose for them.
Val's latest project, a set of Noah's Ark dominoes that just came out. And of course, look for his cartoons regularly in the New Era magazine for teenagers. Well, thanks for joining us today on Mormon Times. For more great content, be sure to follow us on Facebook at Mormon Times TV. Have a great day.